YouTube, what's up? This is our first video, making it a 2024 goal to make one YouTube video a week. Hopefully that grows into multiple YouTube videos as I get better at this, but we're in our humble abode. We're in our basement right here with our beautiful, beautiful setup where I record my podcast, and just gonna be covering some longer form content here. That's kind of my idea with the YouTube page. Instagram allows me, or kind of forces me, to distill ideas into 1 minute segments, and a lot of times there can be a lot of nuance lost there, and there's a lot of beauty to distilling down your ideas and making it digestible within a 1 minute thing. And I think there's a lot of coaches that get off on the wrong foot because they argue against that, and they're like, oh, it's 1 minute, it's simple-minded. Yeah, but there's also an art to distilling your message down to 1 minute, and there's an art to getting really, really good at having people understand your message. And I think really smart people get really good at that, and people that are just not as smart, they just say everybody's dumb that is on Instagram, everybody's dumb that's on TikTok, because they are unable to distill their message. So hopefully YouTube gives me the balance of being able to distill the message and grow the page on Instagram and grow the business in the TikTok-y way on Instagram, and those quick 1 minute hitting things, and hopefully providing deep content there as well with the words that we share. But YouTube, hopefully we can expand that and we get a little bit longer. And I have no idea how long these videos are going to go. I'm just going to kind of rant and cover some of the things, and maybe we edit some things. I'd love to know your guys' thoughts after the first couple of videos, what you guys would want to see more of, what you guys want this to look like, different directions we can take it, topics you'd like me to cover. But today, first subject we're going to be taking down is big recovery. And we got the Whoop strap on here. And it's something that if you follow along on Instagram, you've seen that I've been memeing left and right. And taking down big recovery, one of the things that I meme a lot is the sleep aspect, the creatine aspect, the biohacking aspect, the Whoop scores, and everything left and right to that. I had Atlas Power Shrugged on the podcast, and if you guys haven't listened to that podcast, it was a fucking amazing one with a dude that is just a savage. And one of the things he said on there was like, big recovery, or recovery is a scam by the supplement industry to make you buy supplements. And while there is magic, and while there is purpose to recovery, obviously, like that is not the point. The point is not that there's no benefit to sleep, there's no benefit to supplements, there's no smaller steps you can take to recover, there's no smaller steps you can take to enhance your performance. That is not the point of taking down big recovery. The struggle I have with recovery, the recovery industry, is that it is not a money grab to increase your performance. It is a money grab. That's what it is. They are creating these Whoop bands, they are creating these supplements, they are making you focus on sleep, not for your performance, but for your wallets, and for you to buy more things from them. Which again, that doesn't mean everything that they do is negative. That does not mean that Whoop is all negative, that supplements are all negative. It's just to understand where they are coming from when they create their products. It is not for your performance, it is for your money. And what we have created in this recovery type industry is an overanalyzation of what training is. Everything right now, because you can sell way more recovery tools than you can sell training tools. Training tools, you are stuck with training programs, you are stuck with maybe like an equipment piece here or there, but there's really not a ton of money or a ton of ways to branch out on how to make money there. Where there's ways to branch out is the recovery world. So everything that can be used to recover will be sold to you. Man, I'm seeing sauna straws now. Sauna straws. They're in the sauna and they're sucking on a straw, breathing, because it's supposed to help recover your lungs in the sauna. I'm like, some of this stuff is just insane. And what has led to is this overanalyzation of what recovery and what training is. And we've gotten to a point to where this big recovery is emphasized more than training itself. And we have kids that are more focused on how to recover than how to train. And one of the things that you really have to emphasize with these kids is working harder, not smarter, does not work if you're not working at all. And a lot of kids now are in an environment in which they are not working. And this is another thing that I think people kind of miss out on, is this whole strength conditioning field, this whole recovery field was built around the people that we started with in the field, which were savages that were working these construction jobs 80 hours a week, smoking cigarettes, like drinking, and then going and training in this like West Side type world where they're sending big lifts all the time, every single day after a 16-hour work day, and their snack was probably a cigarette. And so that group of people is who sports performance was groomed around, and as that group of people should focus more on recovery. That group of people should probably take a couple supplements and sleep a little bit longer and train a little bit less. But what we haven't noticed in the sports performance field, and we haven't pieced this together, is that is not who we train nowadays. There's very, very few people that work and live that lifestyle leading up to training. And that's a great thing. Our high schoolers, I don't want our high schoolers smoking cigarettes and drinking beer before we go and train and max out every single day. So it's a beautiful thing that our high schoolers' biggest stressor is the test that they have and the job at Subway that they may work. Most of them don't, but even if they have it, like, that is their biggest stressor right now, is these mental stressors. And that does not to negate the mental stressors. It's to emphasize the fact that our physical understanding and our physical programs are built around these group of people that were working these 80-hour work weeks. And now we're applying these principles and these concepts, and we're pushing on these TikTok generation of kids. Again, much better way to grow up, much better way to live. No negative there. It's just the lifestyle that they were growing up in. But now we are preaching to the TikTokers that they need to focus on recovery, and they need to go sleep more, and they need to take their creatine, and they need to take their whey. When the message that they need is they need to go work harder. They need to go train. They need to go train really, really hard. And when you don't preach this message to kids that are already overanalyzing and overfocused on this recovery aspect, you get them stuck in this recovery/readiness cycle. John Kearns, who's one of our insiders, just mentioned that cycle, and it was a really, really good thought-provoking way to put it, is when you're always focused on recovery, you're always focused on being ready for that next competition. And I see high schoolers struggle with this over and over again. They are the same athlete for 4 years of college because every Tuesday they have a game, and then every Thursday they have a game. So their training is based around that game. Their training is based around that practice. They're going to be ready for that practice. They're going to be recovered for that practice. They're going to be recovered for the next training session. And so all they do is focus on this recovery readiness cycle to where they never get to a point in which they're actually prepared for anything, because this training session is a recovery for that training session, and that training session is a recovery for the next game. And the game's the only time you actually get a real stimulus in. And that is something that I've seen athletes, and myself, I've fallen into this trap, and it's a hard trap to get out of you become the same athlete. You are the same athlete 4 years later as you were day one, because you never actually committed to training and digging the hole that is required to change. You need to dig a hole. You need to be unrecovered in some regard to create change, to have recovery matter, to have the food that you're intaking matter. And that is something that is not talked enough about, is when you never get into that unrecovered state, if you never get into that state where training pushed you past where you're going to be a little sore, where you're going to be a little bit beat up, you never get the results from training that you are looking for. And you tried to stay the same. You tried to be always recovered, and you never went anywhere with it. And that's not even to mention the fact of how confusing it is for kids in this age of information right now, where when I was training, when I was growing up, what we would do is we'd go to bodybuilding.com. We'd look up the most recent workout that was posted there by some coach that we admired, and we'd follow that workout to a T, wreck ourselves. It'd be some 10 by 10 stupid ass German training volume, wreck ourselves, realize, okay, that probably wasn't it, or we just keep diving into it until we realized it wasn't it. But we would learn a lot there, to where now, with so many sources of information and so many things that need to be emphasized, training is not fun for kids nowadays. And I think that is a huge piece to the results that we want to get. Sleeping is not sexy. Taking all your supplements is not super sexy. And when these are the two things that are preached to the kids, that all that matters is your sleep and all that matters is your supplements, and as crazy as that is a lot of what is preached. It's the only things we talk to kids about. Nobody in their heart was like, oh yeah, let's go fucking sleep, bro. Let's go like recover, man. But when it's all that's preached and it's all that's beat into their head, that's all they have attached to training. Training is not fun anymore. You lose the art of training. I talked about this in a post of, we killed Rocky and replaced it with some nerd sports scientist with a force plate, and then wonder why kids don't want to train anymore. Training can be fun. Training can be electric. Training can be something where you are absolutely pushing the limits of your body forward. And recovery will happen after that. If you're training hard enough, recovery will happen. And if you don't know if you're not training hard enough, you're not. Like that's another thing that I really love to talk about is like overtraining was not a thing until we invented the word for overtraining. Like the amount of people that tell me they are overtrained, they are burnt out, they are whatever. It's like, bro, you are lifting 3 times a week for 1 to 2 hours. Like you're not overtrained. I promise. I've seen overtrained. And overtrained hits you like a fucking box of bricks, and you don't have a choice. You don't get to say you're overtrained. You get to know you're overtrained. It tells you. Your body fucking tells you. It shuts down. You're unable to do things that you were doing before. It's not this like, oh, I don't feel like training today, or I'm a little beat up, or I'm a little sore. And once you get stuck in that thought process of, oh, I'm overtrained, I fear training, you attach a fear to training. Training negatively affects my performance. I can't do that. I'm going to be sore. I'm pushing too much. You stop giving your all to training. You stop giving your intent to training. And that's where you really lose out on a lot of the stimulus that is training. And again, training becomes a lot less sexy because of that. And that's not even to mention the biases that these products create of the person that is going to be into recovery, the person that's going to be into Whoop scores and making sure they track all their sleep and all their metrics is going to be a person that is naturally overemphasizes or overanalyzes things. They are already looking way too small detail. They're already looking at the small, minute details that probably are not moving the big needle. They're anxious over things. And now you give them a Whoop band. You give them a Whoop band that tells them, hey, even though you feel great today, like you're at 40% recovery. And what do you think that does to an athlete that is already anxious, already overthinking things, already in an age of information where they're just spammed with information left and right? That is going to take that athlete completely out of the training world. That is going to take that athlete completely out of being present with their bodies, paying attention to what their training should be that day, and pushing their bodies past that limit. And that's the funny thing too, is that the elite athletes that actually probably need these recovery tools, the athletes that are David Goggins themselves and pushing themselves past limits, are not using these tools anyways. So not only are you not getting the positive out of it, because the people that probably need it, people like me and myself and my group of guys, we're just ramming our heads into a wall over and over again, and maybe do need to focus a little bit more on recovery. We're not going to buy that tool because we don't believe in it. We believe in just going hard. And so the people that do need the tool are not going to use it. So you don't get the positive where you would get the positive, and you get a massive amount of negative with athletes that just need to push harder, that just need to be more present with their body and need less information in their lives, not more information. Now, that's not to say everything on recovery is negative. Bobby Stroop, who's the trainer for Patrick Mahomes and a guy I very much respect in the space, and obviously a very elite level trainer if you are in the space and you know of him, uses Whoop, and I believe it's a Whoop that he uses, or maybe it's a Mega Wave, but he uses one of the tools to drive competition with his athletes. And that's something that I can definitely see as a positive with the big recovery tools, is using Whoop as a tool of having your athletes that are already, again, they're like myself, where they're massively competitive, they're pushing, they're trying to train harder every single second of every single day. If you can turn recovery of something that they are not naturally inclined to go do, you can turn that into another competition for themselves. That can be a massive benefit to them. And I think one of the things there is having trainers pick which athletes need these recovery tools and not having it just swarmed in front of these athletes. Because right now, what the marketing is selling to the parents and selling to these high school kids that have no idea. And again, they're way overanalyzed. But if you have an elite level trainer picking out 5 to 6 NFL athletes that he's training and he's working with and having them compete, that's a little bit of a different story. And looking at those success stories with these NFL athletes, who have already put in the work, who already have the natural mentality to grind and run their bodies into the ground over and over again, comparing that to the high school kid that just needs to go train for 8 years and not think about overtraining and not overanalyze training and not make training not fun, is silly. They're not the same person. They're not the same athlete. They're not in the same environment, and they don't have the same mentality in training. They don't have the same training age. They don't have the same training environments. And so that's something that I really think is silly. And I think it's something we do a lot of. It's like, well, that NFL athlete is using this recovery tool, and look at it. Look how it increases performance, or whatever it is. That doesn't apply to your high school and college athletes who are not doing any of those things. Again, it's like trying to compare the construction workers to our TikTok generation of kids. It's not the same athlete. It's not the same environment that they're growing up in. And I think we need to focus more on training with these athletes and less on recovery. So that's my rant on big recovery. little bit rusty on a lot of this. So we had some dogs walking upstairs and some barking in the middle of it, so we had to cut it up. But first YouTube video done. We'll see how it goes. Keep building these out. Thank you guys for watching. Boom.